I shouldn't remember her laugh this clearly. Not after all this time, not after telling myself it was nothing. But it's the first thing that hits me again. Low, unhurried, the kind of laugh that makes silence feel heavy when it disappears. We were sitting too close, that much was obvious. A narrow table, the kind with candles that burned down faster than the conversation. Her glass was half full, her lipstick leaving a faint trace on the rim. I kept catching myself staring at it instead of her face, as if the shape of her mouth had already left its mark everywhere. She leaned back, fingers drumming lightly against the wood. A woman in her mid-40s shouldn't need to prove anything, yet the way her shoulders shifted, the pause before her next word, there was something almost vulnerable in it. "You make me forget my age," she said. Her eyes stayed on mine a moment longer than they should have, soft and defiant all at once. I could have laughed it off, made it casual. But I didn't. My throat tightened, and before I could second-guess myself, the words slipped out, quieter than I meant, steady in a way that betrayed me. "Because all I see is desire." The air between us changed. Not louder, not brighter, just charged. Like the hum before a storm. She blinked once, slow, and I saw her hand hesitate in the space between us, then drop back to her lap. I tried to speak again but didn't. Words felt clumsy compared to the silence, compared to the heat of her gaze traveling over me, measured, restrained. My pulse beat too fast for the stillness around us. Her hair fell loose over one shoulder, brushing against her collarbone. She tucked a strand behind her ear, though it didn't need tucking. I noticed her fingers tremble for a second before she steadied them. "You shouldn't say things like that," she murmured. Not scolding, something else. A warning that carried its own kind of invitation. I leaned closer, just enough that the faintest trace of her perfume, something warm, floral, not new, drifted between us. I didn't touch her, though I wanted to. The nearness itself was enough to burn. Her glass shifted in her hand, the faintest clink of ice against the side. "You're too young to know what you want," she said, but her voice broke halfway through, betraying her certainty. I smiled without meaning to. "Then tell me what it is I want." Her lips parted as if she might answer, then closed again. A slow exhale, shoulders rising, her hand brushing across the table until her fingertips hovered near mine. Not touching, just close enough to remind me how thin distance can feel. For a moment, that was everything. The warmth of her presence, the weight of everything unsaid. I could almost feel her pulse in the space between our hands. Then, suddenly, footsteps in the hall. Sharp, uninvited, shattering the stillness. She pulled her hand back, quick, almost guilty. The candlelight flickered against her face, shadowed her eyes. The door creaked open. And we both froze. The footsteps faded, the door closing again without consequence. We both exhaled, but neither of us laughed at how tense we'd gotten. She reached for her glass, though she didn't drink, only turned it slowly in her hand. "I shouldn't even be here," she whispered, almost to herself. I wanted to ask what she meant, but her eyes gave the answer before her words did. A woman like her had a life already, one she didn't share with me. The small lines near her mouth hinted at years of laughter, but also of disappointments I would never fully know. Divorce papers folded into drawers, maybe. Lonely nights disguised by work, or silence that stretched too long when the lights went out. I shifted in my seat. "Maybe I shouldn't be there," I said, though I didn't believe it. She tilted her head at me, amused but tired. "You don't understand. People talk. They'd never see past it." She meant the years between us. Her mid-40s against my early 20s, too wide a gap for some, too easy to label. She carried it on her shoulders like a weight, while for me it only felt like a dare. I tried to hide the way my eyes lingered on her, how the neckline of her blouse dipped when she leaned forward, how her hand brushed a strand of hair away and left her wrist bare, smooth, vulnerable. I told myself to look away, but my gaze betrayed me every time. She noticed. Of course she did. A faint smile touched her lips, then vanished as quickly as it came. She shifted closer, leaning over the table, her arm brushing against mine. The contact was accidental, at least it should have been. But neither of us moved. Her breath was warm against my cheek when she spoke again. "You'll regret this one day." The words cut deeper than she intended. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. What if I regret walking away instead? Silence. Her fingers tapped once against the table, restless. I thought she might stand, break the spell. But she didn't. Instead, her hand slipped, as if unconsciously, onto my shoulder. A light touch, almost nothing, but it set my whole body alive. I froze, not wanting to scare the moment away. Her thumb moved slightly, brushing over the fabric of my shirt before she caught herself and pulled back. Too late, though. The electricity had already passed between us. We sat there, suspended in something neither of us could define. No one moved. No one spoke. Just the air humming with what we both refused to name. Her eyes locked on mine again, tired, searching, almost daring me to say something that could make it safe. But words felt useless compared to the charge of her touch still lingering on my skin. This time neither of us looked away. The quiet between us was sharp, like glass ready to break. Her hand had just slipped away from my shoulder, but the heat of it lingered, stronger than it should have. Then her phone lit up on the table. A name flashed across the screen. She reached for it too quickly, almost spilling her drink. I looked away, pretending not to notice. But I couldn't unsee the flicker of guilt in her eyes as she silenced the call. "It's late," she said, her voice low, uneven. "So why don't you go?" The words slipped out, not as a challenge but a plea. Her lips parted as if to answer, but instead, she shifted in her chair, closer this time. Our knees brushed. I didn't move. Neither did she. Another silence. Too long. My chest tightened. Every second dared me to lean in, to close the distance. "You don't understand what this would mean," she whispered, and the words trembled, not with rejection, but with fear. "Then explain it." My voice cracked, softer than I intended. Her eyes searched mine, as though weighing the cost. Her breath came slower, heavier. She leaned closer, so close that I felt it on my skin, the faintest warmth brushing against my lips. I tilted forward, half an inch, maybe less. The space between us thinned until it almost didn't exist. And then, footsteps again. A shadow moving past the door. We both jerked back, her hand knocking the candle. The flame bent, steadied, throwing wild light against her face. Her chest rose fast, breath caught in her throat. We waited, holding still until the sound faded. No one came in. Her eyes found mine again, wide, shaken, but unwilling to let go. She pressed a hand against her temple, laughed softly, nervously. "This is insane." "Maybe," I said. "But it feels more real than anything else." She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned in again, slower this time, as if daring me not to stop her. My pulse pounded so hard I thought she'd hear it. Her hand brushed mine beneath the table, fingers grazing, hesitating. I turned my palm upward, catching the edge of her touch. For a second we held it, light, fragile, trembling. We didn't kiss. We didn't dare. But her face hovered just inches from mine, her breath mingling with mine, her lips parting as though one more heartbeat would undo us both. Neither of us moved away. The danger hadn't stopped us. It had only pulled us closer. Her hand still rested in mine, trembling, caught between pulling back and holding on. I felt her pulse in her fingertips, too fast, betraying the calm she tried to keep. She drew in a shaky breath. "We can't." The words died halfway out, softer than a secret. I leaned in, close enough to see the fine strands of hair falling across her cheek. Without thinking, I reached up and brushed them away. My fingers grazed her skin, warm, impossibly soft. She didn't flinch. She didn't move at all. Her eyes closed for a moment, long lashes trembling. "You don't know what you're doing to me," she whispered. "I think I do." My voice was low, rough. I could feel the heat of her leaning closer, just barely, as though every breath pushed us further into dangerous ground. Her body shifted, her shoulder pressing lightly against mine. It was nothing, and yet everything. The nearness was dizzying. I couldn't tell if it was her perfume or the rush of blood in my ears that filled the space between us. She opened her eyes again, meeting mine with a sharpness that almost scared me. "You'll ruin me," she said, her lips so close I could taste the word. "Or save you," I whispered back. That broke her composure. Her hand gripped my wrist, not hard, but tight enough to hold me there. She shook her head, the smallest movement. "You're too young. Too reckless. You don't understand what it means to want someone like me." "Then make me understand." The silence that followed was unbearable, heavy with everything unsaid. My heart hammered as her grip loosened, her hand sliding slowly down my arm until it rested against my chest. I covered her hand with mine. "Tell me to stop," I said. My throat ached with the words. "If you don't want this, tell me." Her lips parted. Nothing came out. Instead, her body leaned into mine, her forehead nearly brushing mine. Her breath hit my mouth, warm, uneven. It felt inevitable, unstoppable, like gravity pulling us toward the same point. "I can't," she whispered finally. "I can't let this happen." But her hand curled into my shirt, holding me in place, saying the opposite of her words. I tilted forward, closing the last sliver of space. My lips hovered over hers, close enough to feel the tremor in her breath. She didn't move away. And just as the moment broke open, just as everything we'd fought to hold back teetered on the edge, the sound of a key turning in the door split the silence. The key turned, the latch clicking open. She pushed off me so quickly it hurt, her hand leaving my chest like a wound. We stood apart in seconds, the candlelight catching the flush on her cheeks. The door opened just enough for a voice to drift in, familiar, casual. "You still up?" Her breath caught, sharp, and she forced her tone steady. "Yeah, just finishing a drink." A pause. The door didn't open any farther. Then the voice faded down the hall, leaving silence heavy in its wake. She didn't move right away. Her shoulders were tense, her fingers gripping the edge of the table until her knuckles went white. When she finally turned, her eyes locked on mine. Something had broken in them, restrained maybe. "I can't do this," she said, almost too quickly. "Not here. Not now. Not with you." I swallowed, words dry in my throat. "Then why don't you leave?" She flinched. It wasn't anger, it was truth cutting too close. "Because I don't want to." Her confession hit harder than any touch. My chest tightened, breath uneven. The air between us charged again, worse than before. I stepped toward her, slowly, testing the distance. She didn't move back. But her hand lifted, shaking, as though to push me away. Instead, it hovered near my face, trembling, before she let it fall. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I told myself I'd never, not after last time." I frowned. "Last time?" Her lips pressed together, regret flashing in her eyes. "I let myself feel something I wasn't supposed to. It ended badly. Too much shame. Too much loss. I promised myself I'd never do it again." The words sank like stones. She wasn't just talking about us. There was a ghost standing between us now, someone else who'd carried this desire before me. "Is that what this is for you?" I asked, my voice low, tight. "Another mistake?" Her silence was louder than any answer. She turned away, brushing past me to set down her glass. Her arm grazed mine, just a brush, but it left me burning. When she faced me again, her expression was raw, unguarded. "No," she said finally. "That's what terrifies me. You don't feel like a mistake." Her words stole my breath. For a moment, we just stood there, her eyes wet with unshed tears, my hands twitching at my sides, desperate to touch her and terrified to ruin her with it. She closed the space herself. Not with a kiss, not yet, but with the slow press of her hand against my chest again, her forehead resting just near my shoulder. Her body trembled, her breath hot against my neck. "We can't keep standing on the edge," she murmured, almost breaking. I covered her hand with mine, holding it against my heart. Then maybe we stopped standing. Her head lifted, eyes wide, lips parted. We were one breath away from everything undoing. Her forehead still rested near my shoulder, her hand against my chest, the weight of her touch both fragile and unshakable. I could feel every tremor running through her body, every ragged breath she tried to hide. "This isn't fair," she whispered, her voice breaking. "To you. To me. To everything I've tried to keep together." I tilted down, close enough that my lips brushed the edge of her hair. "Then why are you still here?" Her silence was louder than any answer. She lifted her head, her eyes locking on mine, wet, tired, desperate. The space between us was barely there, her mouth trembling just inches from mine. I didn't move. Not yet. The choice had to be hers. Her fingers curled into my shirt, pulling me closer. Because walking away would hurt more than this ever could. The words ripped through me. My restraint cracked. My hand rose, cupping the side of her face, thumb brushing the line of her cheek. Her skin was hot beneath my touch, softer than I'd imagined in every sleepless night before this. She leaned into my palm as if she'd been waiting for it, then caught herself, pulling back a fraction, her breath coming faster. We shouldn't. But her body betrayed her, pressing closer until the distance was gone. Her chest brushed mine, her lips hovered so close I could taste the word she didn't finish. I bent, slow, testing, until my mouth nearly met hers. The air between us burned, thick with everything unsaid. "Say it," I whispered. My voice shook. "Do you want me to stop?" Her eyes shut tight, lashes wet, and for one heartbeat I thought she'd push me away. Instead, she whispered back, broken and certain. "No." That single word unraveled us both. She rose into me, closing the space, her lips finding mine in a kiss that wasn't polished, wasn't careful. It was desperate, trembling, years of regret and weeks of longing colliding at once. My hands slid to her back, holding her like she might vanish. She clung to me with the same urgency, her breath ragged between stolen moments. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't neat. It was human, messy, real, undeniable. When she finally pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, both of us shaking. She laughed softly, a sound half relief, half disbelief. "God, what have we done?" I breathed hard, my hand still against her face. "We finally stopped pretending." Her eyes opened, meeting mine with a clarity I hadn't seen before. No more hiding, no more half-steps. Just truth. For the first time, I knew, she understood me as much as I understood her. Whatever happened next, we were no longer standing on the edge. We had already crossed it. The kiss lingered in the air long after we pulled apart. My chest still rose too quickly, her breath brushing against my lips as though the moment hadn't ended, only paused. She didn't move away this time. Instead, she let her forehead rest against mine, her hand still fisted gently in my shirt. For the first time all night, she smiled. Not wide, not careless, just soft, tired, real. "I swore I'd never let myself feel this again," she murmured. "Not after everything I lost. Not after people whispered and judged." I held her hand, threading my fingers through hers. "Then let them talk. Let the past stay where it is. We're here now." Her eyes closed, lashes trembling. I felt the weight of her hesitation, the years between us pressing in like a shadow. But then she squeezed my hand back, tighter, choosing not to let go. "You make it sound simple," she said, almost laughing. "Maybe it doesn't have to be complicated," I whispered. Her body softened against me, leaning into the warmth of my chest. My arms came around her without thought, holding her close. She exhaled into me, long and shaky, as though she'd been waiting for the permission to rest. We stood like that, not rushing. Just the silence, the faint flicker of candlelight, the hum of two people finally giving in to what they already knew. When she finally looked up, her eyes were steady, clearer than before. "You'll wake up one day and see every line on my face, every reminder of the years between us. And you'll wonder if you made a mistake." I brushed a thumb along her cheek, then leaned down to press a soft kiss to her forehead. And when that day comes, I'll remember tonight. I'll remember that none of it mattered when you were right here in my arms. Her lips parted, the faintest laugh slipping out, caught between disbelief and relief. She didn't argue anymore. Instead, she leaned in again, laying her head against me, her hand resting over my heart. Time felt slower then. Nothing loud, nothing rushed, just the quiet comfort of closeness finally allowed. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Maybe I needed you more than I realized." "And maybe," I said, my voice low near her ear, "I was always meant to find you." The candle burned lower, shadows wrapping around us, but neither of us moved to break the moment. For once, there was no running, no hiding, no pretending. Just us, two people, flawed and uncertain, but finally together. And it was enough.